Okay, so we are at the end of a very long tour that we've been working on for a few months, okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of a background for those people who haven't been there, just so that you're able to understand what we're saying. One of the most amazing things that Rabbi Nachman does is he takes pieces of Gemara or he takes pieces of Torah and he shows how everything that he explains, even though it's very intricate and everything, even though it's very complex and even though it's very deep, he shows how it's in the Torah itself. So we're going to do a piece now from Bava Batra, a very small piece, where Rabbi Nachman shows how the entire lesson that we've been learning for months is actually in this little 10-sentence piece, which seemingly has nothing to do with what Rabbi Nachman taught, okay? Which is usual. Why are we going to do this little piece? Because Rabbi Bar Bar Chana came to Rabbi Nachman in a dream, and he told him, I don't know why you don't look more closely at the passages where I give over teachings, because there's a lot of secrets in there. And if you look there very deeply, you'll find very unbelievable things. So Rabbi Nachman decided after that he was going to go look back. And then he ended up making all the first lessons of Likutei Moharan based on these passages of Rabbi Bar Bar Chana. Okay?
Was he in Amora? Was he a Tana?
No, so Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was in Amora. And when he gave over stories in Bava Batra, they're all very mysterious. Meaning that when you hear the story itself, your eyes are going to be like, what? You know? But then when you get to it and you see all the secrets in it, then you'll be able to understand it, okay? So what we've been discussing so far is this concept of, is it possible for you to be able to actually experience that everything is for the best, even when you don't feel that it is? Is it possible for you to go through difficulties in your life, such as you're having difficulties making money, you're having difficulties getting married, you're having difficulties with your parents, you have health issues, physical health issues, mental health issues, substance abuse issues. You have every issue under the sun. Is it possible for you to have a taste of Olam Haba while you're in Olam Hazeh, and that you realize that everything is for the best? Not just that I believe it, but I actually experience it. Rabbi Nachman says it's possible. You can have a taste of Olam Haba in Olam Hazeh, but you have to have what's called hitkarvut with the tzaddik. Does anybody know what hitkarvut means? David, can you put your phone on silent? Thank you. Does anybody know what hitkarvut means?
It's coming closer.
Okay, good. It comes from the word karev, which means to draw near. Yeah, to draw near. Okay? So hitkarvut means to have closeness, a kesher with a real tzaddik. And you might say, well, maybe you just need a rabbi. Why don't I just have a close relationship with a rabbi? Because in the teachings of the Arizal, in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the tzaddik takes on a much greater importance than, let's say, a normal stam local rabbi. And that is that there is a person who has attained such level of mastery in the aspect of physicality, spirituality, psychology, in all levels of reality, so to speak, that he has become such a master, such a guru, that he has taken on this concept of what's called tzaddik. And not just the stam tzaddik, not a person who knows even the whole Torah kula, not a person necessarily even has great midot, maybe not even a person who did all these things. But the tzaddik on the level that we're talking about is what Rabbeinu Zal uses the language in the Likutei Moharan as tzaddik emet, that he is a true tzaddik. He is a true tzaddik. In the language of the Tanya, in Chabad Chasidus, he explains that this is a person who has not just overcome all of his difficulties in his life. He has not just, so to speak, transcended all of his issues, all of his challenges, but he's one of the few people in history who has actually transformed the challenge itself into light. That, so to speak, his difficulties start to work for him, and they become vessels of good for him. We see this with Yaakov Avinu, that Yaakov Avinu obviously was a tzaddik, one of the greatest tzaddikim who ever lived. And at the end of his life, he not only overcame Esav literally blessed him, and it brought him to a higher place than he'd ever been in his life, and that was called Yisrael. We know Yaakov comes from the word Ekev, which means heel, meaning that Yaakov in his essence represents a person that everybody's stepping on, right? That he's going through challenge and difficulty after difficulty, that even while he's still in the womb, we learn in this parsha, he's already fighting with Esav. And his whole entire life, he's struggling. This challenge, that challenge, Lavan, Esav, his wives, his kids, this, Yosef, the sale, his whole entire life, so much so that by the time he met Paro, you look, that's weird. You look very old. And he said, I've been through a lot in my life. That's why I look so old. Okay? But at the end of his life, he fought Esav's malach, right? The root of Esav, which is even harder, which in the language of the Zohar and Kabbalah, he represents the malach that's called, we'll say, Sam. Samech Mem. He fought Samech Mem, and he literally got Samech Mem in such a position that Samech Mem asked him, let me go. And Yaakov Avinu, and by the way, this is the essence of a Jew, that Yaakov Avinu said, not until you bless me. What does that mean? Because Yaakov Avinu understood that everything that happens is from Hashem. And it must be that even his greatest struggles are also from Hashem. And if they're from Hashem, what do we learn that means? They're for the best. And up to this point in Yaakov's life, he didn't see any good from Esav. He just saw anxiety and fear and sadness and scare and trials and tribulations. There was no good yet. So he said, I'm not letting you go until you bless me. How many of us have struggles in our lives? And you would pay anything to get rid of it. Mamas pay anything to get rid of it. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. Everybody has things in their life that they would do anything to get rid of. Anything. That if Hashem said right now, I'll get rid of it for you. You say, okay, I'll take it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But Yaakov Avinu shows what Amunah is. That at the moment that he's actually able to get rid of that problem, he says, 1 second. There's no way Hashem put me through this for my whole life just so the problem would go away. It must be there's good in the problem itself. It must be that Hashem is hidden in the problem himself, like Rabbi Nachman teaches. That Hashem, he loves justice, but he loves Yisrael more. So what does Rabbi Nachman say Hashem does? He gives you a problem, but then he literally hides himself inside the problem. So that when you find the solution to the problem, you found Hashem in a deeper way than if you never had the problem to begin with. And Yaakov says, not until you bless me. And he says, okay, you saw through me, you win. From now on, you're Yisrael. Does anybody know what the word Yisrael contorts or changes to? No, but that would be amazing. Anybody know? Yisrael. Roshli. There's a head to me. So he was Yaakov, meaning Ekev, the heel, the lowest part of the body. But because he didn't let Samech Mem, Satan, go until he blessed him himself, because he understood it must be from Hashem, it must be for the best. He says, okay, you saw through me, good. From now on, you're not going to be the Ekev anymore. Now you're Yisrael, you're the Rosh. Tzadik Yesod Olam. Rosh B'nai Yisrael. Okay? By the way, what's Rosh B'nai Yisrael? What's the first 3 letters? Rabbi Nachman says? Rabbi. Okay? So, what type of tzaddik is Rabbi Nachman speaking about that you have hitkarvut with? He's not just talking about Rabbi Google. He's talking about mamish, a true tzaddik, someone on the level of Yaakov Avinu, someone on the level of the Arizal HaKadosh, someone on the level of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, someone on the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, someone like the Nachal Naveh Makor Chochma, the flowing river, the source of God consciousness, the Tzaddik Yesod Olam, Rabbi Nachman Fega. And when you have complete attachment to that Tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman says you could have a taste of Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh. You can literally experience that your life, everything is for the best, even without the event changing. Like David HaMelech says in Tehillim, whether your name is Yud Kei Vav Kei, I'm going to say thank you, or whether your name is Elohim, I'm going to say thank you. Meaning whether you're revealing your good to me, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, your compassion, your empathy, your love, or whether you're hiding yourself from me, you're concealing yourself from me. There's judgments, there's dinim, there's difficulties, there's constrictions. You're hiding from me. I'm going to say thank you anyway. But not just because I was taught to, because I literally can feel and experience this is for the best. Rabbi Nachman says for you to be able to do that, you have to attain the 3 levels of hitkarvu to the tzaddik. Okay? So now if you guys can imagine, I'm sure you guys have never played video games, but if you have, there's different levels to get to certain bosses. Yeah? I remember I used to play Mario Kart a lot. I'm sure that was like very old for you guys. Do they still have Mario Kart now? Oh, wow. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. I don't know what we do without him. Okay? By the way, he's looking for the lost princess, right? And we have Bowser. Yeah? Okay? Yes. Okay. You don't have to give up too much. We understand you play the game all the time. Okay. So now we have 3 levels of attachment to the tzaddik. And if you attain all 3 levels, Rabbi Nachman says, you get to taste Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh. What's the lowest level we said? When you see his face. When you see the face of the tzaddik, which we learned means that you're connecting and you're seeing his essence. Because what's a person's face? It's how you recognize him. If chas v'shalom, you're in a horror movie and your face just, so to speak, it has like that blurry thing, and nobody can see your face. So even though you're you, nobody can recognize you anymore. So Rav Natan teaches what is a Jew's face? It's his essence. Let's say, for instance, this guy happens to be very street savvy. And everybody goes, oh, that guy, wow, he's really with it. He knows how to hustle. Yeah? So that's his face. Let's say this guy has pure faith, pure emunah like you never saw in your life. So then that's his face. Let's say this guy, Mike. Mike from New York. Okay? Let's say this guy, Mike, is tamimut like you never saw in your life. Tamimut mamish. That he's pure, he's simple, he's like the cream of the earth. Okay? The gold of the earth. So that's his face. What does it mean to see the face of the tzaddik? It's to see that quality of the tzaddik. And what's the face of a tzaddik? What do you go to a tzaddik for? His wisdom. His ability to teach you how to get closer to Hashem. So that's his chokhmah. That is the face of the tzaddik. So every single time that you learn Rabbeinu's Torah, you're connecting to him at that first madrega. You have beaten the first boss. With me? Good. How do you attain the next level? By giving tzedakah to the tzaddik. What's the reason? So we're going to go a little deeper now. If you guys didn't hear Likutei Halachot class this morning, it's going to connect to that. What's the whole ikar of tzedakah? Besides the fact that it's such a big mitzvah, besides the fact that the Zohar compares it to Maaseh Bereshit, why is Rabbi Nachman constantly speaking about the concept of tzedakah? Did Rabbi Nachman care about money? No. So why does he say giving tzedakah to the tzaddik is mamish life-changing? So we're going to understand something very deep right now. What is the reason that you have many young 18-year-old guys on the block over here wanting to work on 47th Street and make a lot of money? Or 45th Street before you get there? Does anybody know? So you're going to say it's because of the culture. You're going to say because it's our generation. You're going to say it's because my parents were immigrants and they want me to go make a lot of money. You have a million reasons under the sun why this is my thing. But I want to tell you a very deep thing. Do you know the reason why people want to have money so bad? Even though on paper it doesn't really make sense. It's a physical object. Can you imagine if everybody was running after this? I want 1 million of these. How hard are you working for it? Oh man, all day and night. What are you going to do with them? I'm going to exchange them for other things. But that's how we run after money. Why? So Rabbi Nachman teaches that based on Kabbalah, the root of money, not physical money, the source of money comes from the same exact place as the souls of humanity. And the reason why we're running after money is because everybody wants to do tshuva. Everybody wants to go back to the root of their soul. Everybody wants to return home. And because money comes from the same place as we do, we want to connect to it. And that's why it's hard for us to give it to other people. Not necessarily because you're stingy, but because literally the money comes from the same place as yourself. Same thing. And so therefore, when you have money, whatever money you have, that's mamish your money. Meaning it's a part of you. Because it comes from the same place as you come from. Everybody understand that? Okay. Now, what makes it difficult, Rabbi Nachman teaches, for a person to, let's say, progress in their life, to make money easier, to have peace in their home, to get married to begin with, to have a munah. So Rabbi Nachman says all of these things are dependent on the Brit. That a person has obtained a high level of sexual purity, both in the area of what's literally between the legs, in the area of your emotions, in the area of your thoughts, in the area of your desires. And when a person, Rabbi Nachman says, has attained a high level in all these areas, then Rabbi Nachman says his wife comes to him easy. Rabbi Nachman says he makes money easy. Rabbi Nachman says he has a munah easy. Rabbi Nachman says easier for him to speak to Hashem. And the list goes on and on and on. And where does he get this from? Because the Arizal HaKadosh says that the entire reason we were in Mitzrayim was to matakin the pagam of the Brit. And now we can understand, why is it the most difficult for me to deal with? And the answer is because the entire exile is predicated on it. The entire exile is rooted in the pagam of the Brit. So if you were to fix it, you would literally be free. So what's the reason it's so hard to overcome it? The reason is because then you won't be in exile anymore. So how do I begin to matak in this area? How do I fix this area? So Rabbi Nachman says, by giving tzedakah to the tzaddik. Why? So think about it like this. You ready? We know, according to Chassidut and Kabbalah, that where does seed come from? It comes from the mind. And we know, even according to science, that it comes through the spinal cord, and it comes down into the area of the testes, and then it comes out through, and you know the rest, okay? So it comes literally from your mind. And we just learned that what is your essence? It's your own mind. So when a person has seed come out of them, what's literally exiting them is their essence. It's their mind. It's their neshama. And what is that called? Wasting seed. Why is it called seed? Because seed comes from the essence. And you lose it. Is there any way to rectify it? Rabbi Nachman says yes, to tzedakah. Why is giving tzedakah the answer? Because money in the language of Torah and Kabbalah is also seed. Money is seed. And therefore, when you give tzedakah, you're not wasting seed. You're giving seed in the best way possible. You're giving it to a person who's trying to bring everybody back to Hashem. You're bringing it to a person who's trying to lift up souls out of darkness, from depression, from anxiety, from sadness, from fear, from issues at home, from this, from that, from abuse, from trauma. And what is he going to use the money you give him for? For that. What's that called? It's the opposite of wasted seed. You literally use your seed to the highest level. And everything is mita keneged mita. So by giving tzedakah to the tzaddik, you're rectifying wasted seed. Does everybody understand that? So this is the second level. You have seeing the face of the tzaddik, but ultimately you're still limited with that. But when you give tzedakah to the tzaddik, what happens now? Because we just learned that a person's soul is rooted in the same place as the money that he has, when he gives money to the tzaddik, he literally gave a piece of his neshama. And now when that tzaddik uses that to go do ibodah, to go learn Torah, to go pray, to go bring other Jews back, you're literally included in all of that. And now it becomes easier for you to overcome your challenges because the tzaddik is literally doing it for you. And then all of a sudden, the challenges in your life become easier and you don't really know why. And the answer is because you have a higher level of hikarvu to the tzaddik. And now everything he does, you're included with because you gave him a part of yourself. But now we have the highest level of attachment. And Rabbi Nachman says only with this highest level that you're literally able to taste Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh. Why? Because Rabbi Nachman says through this highest level, you're going to be able to know the root of your own soul. You're going to be able to know what you were created for. You're going to be able to know what your actual tikkun is, and you're going to be able to go run after it. And this is the curveball, because it seemingly has nothing to do with anything. And Rabbi Nachman says it's the key to everything. It's the highest level of attachment, and that is when you do teshuvah to Hashem by the face of the tzaddik, in front of the tzaddik. So if anybody can try to understand and try to think about why is this the last step of attachment? The very simple reason is that when you tell a tzaddik everything that you've been through in your life, everything that you've gone through, everything that you've done, Hashem opens up within the tzaddik's mind where is the root of that person's soul. But that only happens when you release everything that's in your heart to him. We learned the story about the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, that he had a person who had tremendous pain in his bones, and he was suffering so much from this, and he heard that the Baal Shem Tov was a tremendous healer. So he went to him and told him, I had all this pain. And he said, I don't understand, because I was taught that if I do real tshuva, then it's going to go away. And the Baal Shem Tov got so concerned, he was thinking so much about him, he ran to him and told him, it's true, you did tshuva already. You're right, 100% you did tshuva. But you never did tshuva in front of a real tzaddik. And he said, what is the difference? He said, the only way that you're going to have a tikkun and the pain is going to leave your body is if you do tshuva in front of a real tzaddik. And he said, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to tell somebody all the things that I did in my life. I'm going to tell Hashem, that's it. And he said, I understand why you think like that, but I'm telling you right now, if you do this, you're not going to have pain. He refused. He died within a couple of weeks of the pain that was in his body. Bless you. Okay? And Rabbi Nachman's students were known for doing this. They would come to Rabbi Nachman and they would discuss, just like if you had a rabbi or if you had a father who was a good father, you tell him what's going on with you. Except that tzaddik has a special ability that when you tell a real tzaddik what's going on with you, he's able through that to navigate what is the root of your soul and tell you how to overcome those challenges. Okay? And that is only by doing vidui devarim, by doing tshuva to Hashem in front of the tzaddik. So how would you literally at this point makayim this level, this highest level? Let's say you're attaching yourself to Rabbi Nachman. So you learn his Torah, that's seeing him. You give tzedakah to the tzaddik by giving tzedakah to those people who are spreading his teachings. And then what's the highest level? Doing vidui devarim in front of the tzaddik. You have to go to Uman. Okay? Anybody know about that? So now with all that being said, let's look at the Gemara now. Everybody listen to this story, Rabbi Bar Bar Chana. I'm sure you guys will all relate. Amar Rabbi Bar Bar Chana. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana said, Zimna chadava ka'azlina bisvinta. There was one time that we were traveling on a boat. You guys know boat parties. Yeah? Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was the original boat party king. He used to travel on a boat a lot, according to the Gemara. Okay? The chazinanahu kavra, and we saw a fish. The yatvale achlatina beushe, and there was a parasite which was in its nostril. The fish. You guys ever see the fish's nostrils? No. You ever see the parasites? So just imagine for a second, you're on a boat. You see a gigantic fish. That fish has in its nostrils a parasite.
Wait, nostrils, do you mean gills?
He has a nostril. Some reason this fish has a nostril, and there is a parasite in his nostril, vomit. And the parasite kills the fish. Rabbi Bar Chana is just watching this. You know, he's drinking his Coca-Cola, he's hanging out on the boat, and he sees the fish. Fish dies. Interesting. V'irchu chamaya. And what's the nature of the ocean? What's the nature of pure water? it cannot allow something which is dead to stay inside the water. What does the water do to the dead item? It flushes it out. So what did the ocean do, Rabbi Baruch Chana said? It started to throw the fish across the ocean, right? Like the water does when anything that's dead, it starts to cast it about. V'shaiduhu leguda, and it literally casted it out into the shore. The fish went onto the shore, like a lot of dead things. The ocean goes back and forth. The fish is now on the shore. V'charuv mine shitin machose, but this is no normal fish. It was a very big fish and must have had a lot of velocity when it got thrown to the shore because it literally destroyed a city. It literally destroyed a municipality that had 60 cities. 60 cities were destroyed by this fish. The only fish I ever saw this big was at a Bukharian wedding. On one side of the table, on the other side of the table, you had a branzini fish, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys never went to that wedding hall? No? Okay. Big fish. Swam all the way. So you guys should know. For us, Ashkenazim, we never saw a fish like this because the gefilte fish is just like this. You can't imagine that destroying anything. If anything, it's like mush. So when it hit that, it would just melt into the house. Or some poor Ashkenazi person would eat it. Okay? Destroy 60 cities. But you know, nobody's going to let that delicious fish that's that big. You guys are not going to let that fish go. So what happens after it destroys the 60 cities? You have 60 cities which come over and start eating the fish. Must have been some good fish. Okay? And then 60 more cities came and they salted that fish. This must have been a huge fish, no? There's 180 cities involved in this, right? We had 60 cities were destroyed, 60 cities were eating it, and 60 cities salted it. Just make sure you're keeping up with the math. I know you guys went to public school for a long time, so you guys should have very, very good mathematics skills, right? No? Nobody? You guys look dead. Are you guys alive over there? Can you give me a smile? Anybody? The guy in the back. Stop eating bird poop in the back. Just come over here. Okay, sit over here and just come over here. Yeah. Try and lean up over here. I want to see what you're doing over there. Yeah. Your eyes look a little bloodshot over there. Come over here. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyah b'dvaro. By the way, he knows that I love him. I wouldn't speak to this like anybody else. And if you do this, by the way, I learned with Bukharians, you could say anything. If you go like this after, it's okay. I killed your mother. It's okay. Don't worry. Right? You do this, it's okay after? You don't know? You're not Bukharian? Okay, so you should. You're living with your parents still? You got to give them one of these. They're going to let you do whatever you want after that. You don't know? You haven't learned? Not in my house. I hear you. Okay. What? I was just kidding. I'm just joking with you. You didn't do anything. I was paying attention to what you said. I believe you. I was just joking. I'm just joking. Yeah, you got to 180. You're good. You're doing the math. Ellie got it. Weiter. Okay. Umalu mechad gagala de ena tala mea garbe mishcha. Oh my gosh. Listen to what they did. These are real hustlers. They want to get every piece of jangi from this fish. So what do? They take its eyeball, and there's oil from the eyeball. And they take out 300 kegs of oil, fish oil. Kaif. 300 kegs of oil. Ellie's like thinking about getting into a new business over here. Yeah? Okay. We came back 12 months later time. What was happening? Chazina, we saw the Havake Menasre Migarme Metaleta. They were taking the bones of this fish, they were sawing them. Bahave Lemivninhu Chanach Mechose, and they were rebuilding the whole city. They were building all the 60 cities that were destroyed. Does anybody want to give me their perush, their explanation of this story?
Yes, they're looking to good into the problem. This is the life of the problem.
Why do you say that?
Because it destroyed their city, and they saw after the fish destroyed the city, that was the problem.
Oh.
But they used the bones They looked into the problem. They rebuilt the city.
Did you see the end of this Torah?
No.
Wow.
Never heard this.
Everybody hear this? Eli just had Ruach HaKodesh. He just had Ruach HaKodesh. You hear? He noticed, what was the whole introduction of the Torah? That there's a way in which that the actual difficulty itself can become your greatest solution. And Eli took that and he applied it to the Gemara that we just learned. That was very Rabbi Nachman-like of you ask. You should mamish go after this and go celebrate and have the best plof you ever had in your life. You were machaven to the tzaddik Yisur Olam. Okay? Perush. You ready? Let's see what Rabbi Nachman says. What's the Sfina? Mike. Yeah, don't look at the hotel right now. Afterwards. What is he speaking about? We're trying to Makayim this Torah, by the way. For anybody who wants to come, we've been working on this Torah for months now. We tried to get to Uman for Rosh Hashanah so we can get to that third step because the majority of us have done the first two. We wanted to get to the highest level of attachment so that we can find out the root of our souls, right? And we can run after it. But we weren't able to get to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, so we decided to go the other time that Rabbi Nachman said that all of his students should come to him, and that was Shabbat Chanukah. So anybody who wants to come with us and to Makayim this Torah, by the way, B'ezrat Hashem, I am planning on going to Eretz Yisrael, okay? I'm hoping to be there by Pesach. So if you guys want to have one last hurrah, that we all come together to go to Eastern Europe in the winter for Hanukkah, on the biggest night of the whole entire winter, the first night of Hanukkah, that Rabbi Nachman says that you can mamish get anything you want if you pray hard enough and you cry for it and you mean it. Hashem will give you a nace, will give you a miracle on the first night. Okay? Mike is going, Avram's going, Michal's going, I'm going, B'ezrat Hashem, more people are going. I can give you the flight details, the hotel. Anybody who wants to go can come. You're all welcome. And I'll speak to your wives if there's an issue. I'm not sure I can help you, but I can try and tell them, you'll get them a nice bag when you get home or something. Okay? It's good, Daniel. You're in now? Okay. What's this sfinta? What was this boat that he was on? Lashon HaChashivut. We learned in the first Torah of Likutei Moharan that Rabbi Nachman always translate the boat of Rabbi Baruch Hana as his malchut. What's the malchut? He used his mind to investigate the status of malchut. We're going to say what that is in a second. How the Jewish people can elevate it. We learned that when a person doesn't have complete emunah in Hashem, but he has emunah in people, places, and things, right? He doesn't believe his money is coming from Hashem. He believes it's coming from 45th Street. He doesn't believe that his peace is going to come from Hashem. He believes it's going to come when he convinces his wife of whatever he believes is the truth. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Rabbi Nachman says what ends up happening is not only do you believe in the wrong thing, but your emunah is captured by the other side. Your emunah is taken down to the side of darkness, and they draw life force from it. And then people, places, and things actually make you work for them. How does this make sense on a collective level? Right now, we are all at the malchut of the United States government. Everybody agree to that? There's a new president. We have to abide by the laws. What is that called? That means that our malchut, the Jewish people's malchut, which is Hashem, has gone into exile. And instead of Hashem being our king, we now have Joe B. Or if you're still living in the past and you still believe it's possible, DT, right? The Trump man. But that's not God. That's just a person. What happens when your king is a person? Then what ends up going into all of his decisions? Ego, desire for money, desire for women, desire for fame, desire for authority, X, Y, and Z, and the list goes on and on and on. And let's say, for instance, he's the nicest guy in the world, the sweetest guy in the world. He literally means best. But in the end, whenever a human being is the creator of something, a society, does anybody know what happens to that society? Has any society ever lasted? No. Has any society ever not ended in a complete abysmal tragedy? No. Every single society created by man, even if it's the best intentioned, either fizzled out or worst case, there was genocide, homicide, the worst possible things you can imagine. Why? Because they're just people. What's the reason why we have to go work for people and we can't just go work for Hashem? Because our malchut is in exile. Our kingship is in exile. Everybody understand that? Rabbi Baruch Chana wants to know where it went and if he can bring it back. V'chazinan hakavra, and he saw a fish. So in his way in the ocean of investigating what happened to the malchut, what happened to Klal Yisrael, that Hashem is not our king, the government is our king, people, places, and things are our king. Yisrael mechunim b'shem dagim. He says he saw a fish, meaning he saw the Jewish people. Why? Because Chazal teach that we're compared to a fish. Kamosh katuv, v'yidgu larob b'kerev haaretz. May they increase in the land like fish. What is this referring to? When Yaakov gave Yosef's sons a bracha, he said they should increase like fish. We know, especially since we're Sephardic, what's the bracha being like a fish? No ayin hara. There's no ayin hara for a fish. Why? Because you can't see him. He's underwater. But the essence of a Jew is that we're like a dog. We're like a fish. Do you know why? Because even though they're living in this world, they're living in a world within a world. The world of spirituality, the world of godliness, the world of Hashem. And on the outside looking in, you probably think, oh my gosh, they're missing out on everything. We're on land, hanging out here, going to this bar, hanging out at this place, going to this thing, doing that thing. And they're all just underwater. And they don't realize, because they never went underwater, there's a whole beautiful world under there. The most beautiful world, the most beautiful colors, the most beautiful happenings, the events, the shiurim that are going on down there, the divrei Torah, the shashlik that they got down there. You never saw it in your life, but it's underwater. They came to Rabbi Akiva when they had a decree by the Romans when they came to Israel. You should know, when everybody sees the Jewish people for the first time, they're conquering the whole world. Not like now that you see everything on Google, on YouTube, and this and that. You didn't hear about the Jews until you got there. They were conquering every land, and they finally end up in a place called Eretz Yisrael. And instead of other places that they see people just like, picking their belly buttons and hanging out by the thing, drinking a beer, they see all this entire nation just sitting and reading books. They never saw anything like it in their life. They said, this is bizarre. Why are these people reading all the time? Live, do something with your life. And they came and they made a decree. No Brit Milah, you can't keep the mitzvot anymore, you can't keep Shabbat anymore. Done. They came to Rabbi Akiva, who was the Tzaddik Ador. He was the leader of the generation. And they told him that he needs to, there's a COVID virus, we need to stop going into public places and learning Torah. What did Rabbi Akiva say? Does anybody know? He said, I have a mashal to give you. The mashal goes like this. There was once a fish, and he was underwater. And there was this fox, and he was trying to kill him. Now, the fox itself, if the fish comes out of water, he can get him. But while he's still underwater, even though it's possible he can get him, but 100%, once he comes out of water, he's dead. Everybody understand? While he's in the water, he could get him. But 100%, if the fish goes out of water, it's going to suffocate. Why? Because it lives in water. Rabbi Akiva said, Klal Yisrael are fish. We live in water. We live in Torah. If we stop learning Torah, we're 100% going to die. If we keep learning, we have a chance we're going to survive. So we're not going to stop learning. And Lamaisa, they survived. Okay? What's the point for us? We are compared to fish. By the way, you should know in Shabbat, there's a very big inyan to eat fish. Why? Does anybody know? No, it represents Klal Yisrael. We just learned that.
So it's Gematria 7, not a demon, 7.
What else you got? Hit me. Let's go. It does represent the tzaddik, but Jewish people are called kulam tzaddikim. We're all compared to the fish. Why are we the fish? Okay, so I'm going to give you the answer. You ready? The Or Chaim HaKadosh, he explains that when Jewish people, or people in general, are reincarnated, they come back at different levels of existence. If, let's say, they really didn't do well, okay, then they come back as really nasty things. Let's say they did a little better than that, they come back as inanimate objects. Let's say they did a little better than that, they'll come back as vegetation. And the list goes on and on. If they did even better than that, they come back as animals. And that's why it's so important, by the way, kashrut and shchita. Because if a kosher animal is killed not in a kosher way, then that neshama never elevates. And it has to stay. By the way, you should
All the ones that you don't cut properly by accident.
also. And by the way, that's the reason you should know. When people see rabbis and they're going to town to make sure that the kashrut is good, you have to understand you have no idea what they know. When people are saying something that there has to be a certain level of kashrut and there's a little bit of this, and you think why? Because it's already kosher, it's kosher, who cares? It's kosher, it's kosher. You don't understand. If you're learning all day and night, every level of Torah, you don't know what that person knows. What is going into that advice? You have to understand they know so much more than us. That's why you have to listen to the tzaddikim, because they know. So I'm giving you one little tidbit, and that is that if you do not have shechita by a person who has Yirat Shamayim, he really has emunah, he really believes in Hashem, and he knows the laws of shechita, then the neshama of that animal, which really could be a Jew, is never elevated. Let's say, for instance, a person was a tzaddik, but he still has to come back down. What does he come back down as? Fish. The souls of tzaddikim are reincarnated as fish.
Wait, why? But they don't eat shechita, right?
That's the reason.
Right, what's the reason for this? Why fish?
Because they're kosher without shechita. They're perfect. They're kosher without shechita.
You get caught and then you go into Haifa.
Fish are very good for you. Fish, you don't need shechita. They don't have pain. That's it. I'm saying it's not like shechita. They don't have to get their neck cut off.
Why is a fish still reincarnated?
And I'm explaining to you, because fish are pure. They live in water. What's the concept of tzaddikim? What's the whole concept of tzaddikim?
Fish.
Why? What are tzaddikim doing? They're living in Torah. They're living in the world of Torah, in the world of spirituality. Fish are the tzaddikim. When you go out and you eat that fish, by the way, that's why very big tzaddikim on Shabbat, they eat a lot of fish. Because that infuses them. That literally, what? Are you allergic to fish?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I heard about a person, he had an allergy to grape juice or something, or wine. They took him to a mekubal in Israel. He said, drink a little bit of this grape juice, you're going to be good. He goes, but this is the thing I'm allergic to. He goes, don't worry, I promise you. You have this, you're going to be good for the rest of your life. What?
I have that. I'm allergic to the wine.
Yeah? Okay, so I'll find this person out, Bezrat Hashem, for you. He drank it and he was able to drink grape juice for the rest of his life. The problem is the key to the solution many times. Okay? But I'm just trying to teach you. We are all compared to fish. Why? Because the Torah says that the Jewish people are kulam tzaddikim. Obviously, that's when you live up to who you could be. When you live up to your spiritual, physical status, then you attain the level of tzaddik, and then you're a fish. Okay? So why are they busy? Why is Rabbi Baruch Hana looking at the fish? Because that's the Jewish people. But it has in its nostril a worm eater. It has a parasite. This is the concept of the prayers of the Jewish people. Like the pasuk says, Hashem says to Klal Yisrael, when you talk to me, ooh, talk to me. Right? He voted it. When you talk to me, I'm going to plug up my nose for you. Hashem has a nose. What does that mean? I'm going to plug up my nose for you. We know, according to Kabbalah, that all dinim, all challenges, all obstacles, all viruses, all magefas, all difficulties and challenges that come into the world come, so to speak, from the left nostril of Hashem's nose. Now, obviously, Hashem doesn't have a nose, so what does that mean? It's referring to a spiritual reality. There's a spiritual reality called Hashem's nose. He doesn't have a physical nose, okay? But he has what are called spiritual nostrils. And what comes out of his left spiritual nostril is all the challenges that come down into the world, all the difficulties, all the dinim. When Mashiach comes and the Geula takes place, that is going to stop completely. But Rabbi Nachman teaches, based on this pasuk, that when you speak to Hashem, he'll plug it up for you right now. So why does he have the parasite in his nose? Because the nose is a concept of tefillah, according to Rabbi Nachman. Whenever the Torah speaks about the nose, it's speaking about tefillah. This is the reason why Rabbi Nachman says that the pasuk says about Mashiach, he's going to be breathing Yirat Shamayim. He's going to be breathing Emunah. Why? Because it's the nose. He's going to be the master of tefillah. Because Rabbi Nachman says that Mashiach is going to conquer the whole world only through his mouth, only through speech. Rabbi Nachman says, how foolish are the nations of the world, that they're all in an arms race to build these weapons of mass destruction that they believe is going to help their cause, and they end up killing everybody as a result. Mashiach, he's going to be building a weapon which is only going to be bringing peace to the world. And that weapon will be his own mouth. And with his mouth, he is going to be slicing and dicing up all the enemies of Klal Yisrael and bringing Geula to the world, all through his own mouth. Shinita Reb Sheretz. However, in his prayer became mixed up with the Sheretz. Does anybody know what a Sheretz is?
Like a creepy crawler.
Creepy crawler. Yes, I remember those from when I was a kid. We used to have a game. We had creepy crawlers. You guys remember that? No, you guys never had creepy crawlers? Okay, I guess we had weaker games than you guys did. Anyway.
It's like something that crawls.
Yes. Okay. Now, if you go into a mikveh, it's pure, right? If you bring a creepy crawler with you in your hand and you go into the mikveh and you go all the way under, but you're still holding on to the creepy crawler, do you achieve the status of tahor, pure? No, why not? Who cares? But you're all the way in.
But is it going down with you?
Yeah.
The water?
Let's say it's just on your fingertip.
In the water or outside?
In the water.
Even out like this. You have everything's under the mikveh. Besides this, it's holding on.
That doesn't mean you're polygamy.
First of all, nobody needs to know your personal business. And secondly, if you go under all the water and your hand is still up, it's considered as if you went under the mikveh.
No.
Yeah.
Is it different with a woman? It's different than a woman.
We don't need to get into all that stuff.
Is this an actual thing?
The Gemara brings down, if a person goes down with a sheretz, he goes down with a creepy crawler in his hand. Forget about why he would do it. They're trying to gain the status of a mikveh. How far does the mikveh go? We know that the mikveh purifies everybody, every time, no doubt. You don't need kavanah, you don't need nothing. You go in, you come out pure. But if you're still holding on to an animal that's not pure, then you have no status of tahor, purity. So Rabbi Nachman says, so too, your tefillah, your prayers can also have a level of sheretz, tumah, so that every single time that you pray to Hashem, you can't get your prayers answered. Why? Because you have a sheretz with you. That even though you're coming with your purity, meaning you're working the field so hard, you're talking to Hashem, you're praying for these things, but still you can't get your prayers answered. Why? Because you still have a sheretz in your hand. Hainu tumah b'tefilato b'avodah b'avil bilato. That is still intermingled in his prayer and divine service, he still has a level of impurity. And he's not able to perform and to achieve avodat Hashem completely because he still has this little level of tuma, sheretz. What's this guy going to do? Azaz shalosh bechinot. He needs to execute the 3 levels of attachment to the tzaddik emet. Hainu hitkashu tzaddik unatina tzedakah uvidui devarim. That he achieves attachment to the tzaddik by seeing his face, learning his teachings. He gives tzedakah to the tzaddik, and he does vidui devarim to Hashem in front of the tzaddik. By doing these 3 things, he removes that little bit of tumah, and then whatever was holding him back from getting his prayers answered is extricated completely. This is the reason, by the way, you hear many stories of people who go to Uman. They've been praying for something for many years, and that year they get it. This guy's looking for a wife. I know personally the story of a person who had trouble for years getting married, and he could not get married no matter how hard he tried. He went to Uman, came back, he got married that year. Another person has health issues you can't imagine. He goes to Uman, comes back, he gets his prayer answered. Financial help, same thing. Health, same thing. I can give you my own personal story, same thing. That there were things that I prayed for years. I came back from Uman that year, I got almost all of it. Okay? What's the reason? Because your tefillah still has a level of tumah, which has not been extricated yet because you can't do it yourself. Hashem made it that you need to go to the tzaddik. That you need to go. Why? Because it's tikkun abrit. By you putting in all of that effort to go across the world, to go see the tzaddik, and to go talk to Hashem there, that effort itself is like you're rectifying the birth. Because you have to have the same level of toiling for spirituality as the pleasure that you had through the actual act. Before we get to questions. So now let's go back. This fish died and it was cast ashore. The three steps are mentioned from top to bottom. So he's going to say what happened to the fish are the three steps of attachment to the tzaddik. You ready? Umeta, it died, meaning ze bechinat vidui devarim. When you do vidui devarim, kamo shekatuv, kol amumatin mitvadin. All those who are about to be put to death, they should confess. The Torah says that a person who's about to die, he should do vidui. That's why a lot of Jewish people, they might do whatever they want to do their whole entire life, and literally they're about to pass away, and they realize, oh my gosh, I just wasted my whole life. And I didn't get any closer to the actual purpose of my life. And they do vidui. Why? Because the Torah teaches that if a person truly does vidui before he passes away, Hashem accepts it. No matter what he did. Okay? So there's a concept of vidui by death. But we know that the Torah teaches that to be embarrassed is also keneged death. To be embarrassed is also keneged death. That's why the Torah teaches that if you embarrass another Jew publicly, it is literally like you killed that person. And that's why it's a very, very important thing that you don't embarrass another Jewish person. And obviously it's difficult. Sometimes you're just joking and you don't know. It's very hard. So you have to pray to Hashem that you do not do it. But it's a very, very serious thing to embarrass another Jew publicly. Okay? Now, what happens when you go tell another person all of your problems? Meaning not just, oh, this is my stuff. I'm having trouble making money. I'm having trouble. But mamish, you really told them all your stuff. How do you feel? Embarrassed. So in that moment, you died. And that's the highest level. That when you have a level of death of yesh, that you have nullified your ego completely, that's the key to knowing the root of your own soul and being ever able to know it and to run after it. And the water tossed it about. This is the concept of tzedakah. Why? Shalach lachmecha al pnei hamayim. Cast your bread upon the waters, it says in Kohelet. What does it mean, cast your bread upon the waters? It says, Ashrechem zorei al kol hamayim. Happy are you that you sow beside all the waters. So what is this whole concept? So the Gemara teaches there that on paper, it doesn't make sense to give tzedakah. Why? Because you worked for it. However, the Torah teaches that if you give tzedakah, you're going to make more money as a result. Why is that? Because it's like putting seed into water. Meaning what? That on paper, it looks like you're wasting it. But the Torah teaches that as a result of it, you're going to fertilize the seed. And you end up having more as a result. So that's the fact that the fish was casted into the water. V'shad yahu leguda. And it was cast onto the shore now. What's the shore? What's the guda? Hatzadik nikra guda. The tzaddik's called the shore. Why? Lashon gader. Because the tzaddik is the concept of a geder, a fence. Why? Shehu goded pirtzotehen shel Yisrael. Because he fences in the breaches of Israel, meaning the whole entire essence of the tzaddik is he's trying to nullify degrees against the Jewish people, and he's trying to uplift the Jewish people from their challenges in life. So as a result of that, he's creating fences between the darkness that's in the world and the Jew himself. He's creating fences, and he's protecting you. So he's the goded. He is the fence itself. Shikriv et atzmo tzaddik. And he gave tzedakah to that tzaddik that he was cast ashore on. And tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to learn the end of this Gemara, and we're going to see how the whole thing comes together in the Torah lesson. Anybody have any questions from tonight? On Tuesday night. Anybody have any questions from tonight? Yes.
So you mentioned the idea of extricating the sherets from our nostrils, correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned that would be to see Rav Nachman,
I'm just saying, whoever the tzaddik is, the true tzaddik that you're attaching yourself to, that in order to be able to remove that sheretz completely so that it's not affecting your prayers anymore, that can only be had by doing vidui devarim in front of the tzaddik, physically.
So my question is, can you do vidui devarim by, let's say, the burial of Shimon Bar Yochai, for example?
If you have these 3 levels of attachment to him.
To him specifically?
Yes, the only way it works is if you have the 3 levels attachment to the tzaddik. That means that you are learning his Torah, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, meaning the Zohar. That means that you are giving tzedakah to the tzaddik, meaning that you're proliferating the teachings of the Zohar. And at the same time, you do vidui devar in front of the tzaddik, in front of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, it works. Okay? And by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, we've spoken about it before, the gematria of Shimon Bar Yochai is the same gematria as Nachman ben Simcha.
That's his father's name?
Yeah. Any questions? I think you had a question, and we'll go to you.
Yes, I had a question about the mikvah that you said bringing in with
The sherets,
Yeah.
creepy crawler.
Does it also apply to, let's say, your animalistic behavior?
Oh, yes, it's definitely connected. Very good. You have a part of your neshama, which is called your nefesh permit, your animal soul, and your job in this world is to uplift and elevate it. And it's very, very, very difficult. And therefore, even when you have worked on it tremendously, there's always still remnants of it. And this is the final step. You have to have what's called Mesirat Nefesh, that is a death of the yesh, a death of the ego. And this can only come by toiling and running after and having this highest level of attachment with real tzaddikim.
But even doing that, there's like you said, there's still going to be remnants on the Sahara. Like,
No. So what we're saying is that if you do these 3 levels of attachment, then you mamish remove that tumah completely. That doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges anymore in your life. It just means that whatever was there is literally extricated from you. Anybody else?
When you go to pray to the tzaddik, you pray
You pray to Hashem,
to Hashem
not to the tzaddik.
through the tzaddik.
In front of the tzaddik. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple announcements. Sunday night, we're going to have our men's women's class. We're going to speak about a specific topic like we did last week. So at Hashem will give me some type of Ruach HaKodesh and Mahibo to do this weekend, and hopefully we'll have something that connects to all of us. Tuesday night, we're going to be doing Likutei Moharan. We're going to, Bezrat Hashem, finish this lesson before Hanukkah time, so we can all go in with a lot of inspiration. And then Thursday night, we're Bezrat Hashem going to have our kumzitz again. Our musician who is usually with us was not able to come this week, and that's why we switched it, but I think it was Hashgacha Pratit. And last announcement again, or 2 more announcements. Rav Tomer, our other teacher of Tzion Breslov, is going to be on a hiatus for the next month. He will not be teaching for the next month. Therefore, we won't be having classes on Monday and Wednesday night. Okay? Hiatus, look it up in Webster's dictionary. You will see that he's taking a break. And last thing is, again, please, I'm begging you. I know that this sounds unbelievable. I know it doesn't sound like it makes sense. I know it sounds crazy. But for anybody who has invested themselves the time that you have been learning by here, the time that you have been deriving benefit from these teachings, that you've been connecting to these teachings and trying to bring these teachings into your life. I'm telling you, I get no money for it. Nobody's paying me to say it. I'm not a salesman. I get paid very little, in fact. I'm just telling you a fact. The fact is that your ability to reach the highest levels of these teachings and to actually experience them in a way that you feel, that you experience in the deepest way, comes from literally actually going to Rabbeinu by his kever. And there's no way for me to naturally explain for you why that works. I could bring you a million stories of what happened to people. If that makes you feel good, I can tell you my own personal story. I can tell you what Rabbeinu says about what happens when you go. But Lamase, in the end, it's not an intellectual understanding. It's a very, very, very deep spiritual phenomenon that takes place when you are by the tzaddik. Okay? Bezrat Hashem, I give everybody a bracha. They should seriously consider coming with us to Shabbat Chanukah. And in some ways, you have a benefit that you have not even on Rosh Hashanah. And that is the first night of Hanukkah. Because Rabbi Nachman says, mamish, that if a person cries in front of that menorah, he cries in front of that first light, and he sits and he stares at that light. He just stares and he looks at it. There's a minhag by Breslovers that literally sit there for half an hour just looking at the light, not saying anything. And then praying and davening for everybody and for themselves. You will mamish get that prayer answered. And I don't know about you, because people say to me, oh my gosh, but to go in a hotel and a plane is going to cost so much. How much would you pay to get those prayers answered? I don't know about you, but I would give up everything that I have. So think about it. If anybody wants to know our flight details, Avram's going to post them. Yeah? Can you post them? The flight details? Please, so people know, because some people, they only want to go on the trip if they go as a group. Okay? And also the hotel is very cheap. It's like $200 for a week, $300, whatever. It's really mamish nothing. Kosher food. And by the way, there's no experience like it in your life. There's no experience like it in your life. If you think that, if you have tasted what it's like to pray with a little bit of fire, to learn with a little bit of fire, I'm telling you right now, you go there, you mamish feel like this is what it must be like to have Geula. That what happens in this little tiny street on Pushinka Street, this little tiny city of Uman, it must be that this just expands to the whole world, and that's what the Geula is. Yeah. And how'd you feel? No question. Okay. Everybody have an amazing night. Amazing night. Have a Shabbat Shalom. And Zrat Hashem, it should be good. By the way, you should be very, very happy on Shabbat. No matter what's going on in your life, it's very, very important. You do your best to be happy on Shabbat. All your bracha from the week comes from the Shabbat itself. And eat a lot of fish if you're able to and you don't have an allergic reaction. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.